I don't think he backs down from anything that he says. That stands behind whatever statement that he makes.
Well, one of them can use 8 tracks, cassette tapes, CDs. Nah, you ain't gonna get it. Stereotype. Boom. Bing.
I think one of the things we talked about is family dinners. That's like a mini reunion.
You can catch all fish with the same bait, right? So you got to be careful with who you're trying to reach.
I agree with music definitely influences violence, and it definitely makes a lot of individuals feel like, yo, this is the play, this is what, I gotta do.
I see Andre already.
Welcome back for another edition of rebrandUS. I'm your host by the name of Anthony Goodson, alongside some of the greatest co-hosts known to man, one of them being Zacchaeus Hicks, aka Zach. What's up, Zach?
Man, God is good all the time.
Right on. Adrian the A. Stinson, how you doing over there looking like Max Headroom? Look, he froze on
my
that.
internet doing bad, but I'm good.
And then again, we have the beautiful, the lovely Helen Hysteric. I did good, right?
That is not my last name.
How you say it?
It is Susterage. The hell is hysteric? Where the E at?
I put a CH.
Yeah,
I put
it's
a CH. Okay,
it means
Susterage.
shoemaker.
Okay, I did bad on that one. I thought I did good.
You get a hard C.
I get a C- at that. Anyway, we have a great show tonight, y'all. We're talking about surviving the mud. And that is a very interesting conversation. You know why? Because every success, somebody had to go through the mud. Is that right, Suster?
Yeah. Good job. It's right.
Okay, I worked it out. So surviving the mud is what we're talking about tonight, y'all. We're going to talk about how that's different from going through a storm. We're going to talk about how that's different from anything else and how the mud, being in the midst of the mud, is a really good place, but you got to recognize when you're in the mud. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about that. So anybody got anything they want to say? How's y'all's week going so far?
Listen, I just go ahead, Ace. You be freezing. Let me let you go first.
Everything going good. Just happy to be here on rebrandUS with a great group of people.
Amen.
Likewise. Well, I was just telling the fellas backstage, your girl got a refund, and it's always good to get some money back. So
Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I had booked a hotel a few weeks ago, and I tried to cancel it within an hour of booking it. Called the people; they was telling me that I need to go online and cancel it, and I was like, "No, I'm from hospitality. I know you can do it through your side." They want to fight me on it, so I let it go. Called again. The other lady was acting slow, so. You don't know I'm in HR, so I am very good at wording email. So when she was like, I can't help you, I said, okay, well, can I get an email to your manager or somebody I can call, because ain't nobody helpful here. So I got an email. I sent a nicely worded email, about 4 nice paragraphs, and I included that I worked in hospitality, so I know how hospitality go. Could you please help resolve this issue? It took him 6 days to get back to me, but we got it resolved.
Amen.
Won't he do it?
Won't he do
Yes,
it?
will.
Let me tell you. I had a situation one time, called up my HR friend, said, hey, look, how do I resolve this situation? My HR friend told me exactly what to do. I quit the job, but then they put some new stuff in place based off the email that I sent. Mm-hmm. So HR, there you go. There you go.
We do more than fire people, guys, okay? That is a very small percentage of what we do. Let me just put that out there. Okay, carry on.
Carry on. But hey, listen, I've been talking about surviving the mud. And you've gone through the job, you went through college, you went through your jobs and all that stuff, and now you learn how to at least step, it's kind of a stepping stone on how you get certain situations resolved. You went through the mud, but there's a lesson behind it. It worked, and now, all of us get that lesson. Hey, y'all, don't forget to share this show. Ace, what else they need to do?
Go subscribe.
I'm about to share it right now.
For you, go subscribe. Go to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. We need your help.
You didn't freeze, but you just didn't get a whole lot of information. Not on the first one, but that's okay.
That's all they need to do.
And don't forget, this month is 2 months, actually. For the world, it's National Women's History or something like that month. And for
something like that.
Here at rebrandUS, we celebrate Black Unity Month. So y'all be sure to unite, do something for your people. Go to McDonald's and buy somebody some food or whatever the case may be. All right. Now, this week, we're talking about surviving the mud. Go ahead.
Can you define how we're using the word mud for the people
I
in
like
the
it.
audience?
I like it because that's the first thing I was about to do. First of all, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I'm
let y'all
sorry.
define. So the mud. The mud is not always a horrible place. Let's go ahead and say that. Right now, you could be in the mud, like college is the mud. You have to go through that grind to get what's on the other side. Every level of success is always preceded by the mud. Like whatever you go through. Michael Jordan was great, but he wasn't great because he didn't go through the grind and he didn't go through the mud. He had to survive the mud. He had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning playing basketball. He had to listen. He had to try. He had to dribble. He had to fail. He had to go through all of that stuff. That's the mud. And the mud can be fun sometimes. The mud is, sometimes you don't even know you're in the mud, but you got to survive the mud. Failure ends up in the mud. There's a lot of things that happens in the mud, but you have to know when you're in it so that you can know that this is a lesson until I get to that next level. So even doing a simple, like you're trying to get a job and you do an interview or an application. The application could be the mud. Have you ever, anybody on here ever did 100-page application?
Oh
No.
yeah,
Don't want to. Don't want to.
It's ridiculous. They take you through the whole thing 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, absolutely. But you got to survive the mud, and life has more than just that. And so we're going to talk about that. But anyway, tell me, what do y'all think the mud means to y'all?
I
agree with you, man. Oh, go ahead, Ace.
Oh, I just think it's that difficult place. It's that I think Steve Harvey he talks about having a turn back moment. You know, that moment where you can decide to turn back or keep going. You know, being in that place where it's kind of make or break, or in the rebuilding process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You both are right. You know, it's that make or break, and it's that part that makes you a human being and an adult. You know, failure. That's part of the mud.
Yeah.
Like you said, you might not even know you in the mud, but you grinding every day. Getting up to go to work is part of the mud.
Absolutely.
You don't want this job, but you got to get this. You know, you got to get paid.
Right.
But it's funny you say that, Zach. Like, if getting up every day going to work is part of the mud, then your paycheck is the blessing. But that means you're probably in a career that you don't really want to be in,
right?
Or you don't really like. But you got to do what you got to do simply to survive every week, every 2 weeks with that paycheck. That's part of what the mud is.
Yeah,
and I think
depending on what it is, that paycheck might be the mud.
True.
Yeah.
Like, dang.
Listen.
But it's for the blessing on the other end, because we all feel like we owe more money.
Amen.
Oh yeah,
that's true. And I just want to add, I agree with all the things that have been said by the fellas. I think I'm also like a visual person, so I'm like trying to think of an analogy or like a way to put a visual in somebody's mind. So listening to y'all helped. And I would just add to it, like, the mud can be anything that feels like resistance to where you're trying to go, right? So to Anthony's point, you might not know you in there because to you, you know you want to get to this job. So Yashika last show let us know that she was driving 2 hours, 3 hours in the snow to get her degree. Like, that's asinine.
Yeah.
But to her, of course, I'm sure it was annoying, but to her, like, that was just a part of the process. So to her, it probably wasn't even the mud. It was like, okay, I just got to do this to get to point B. So I think anything that we go through that just provides some type of resistance, whether it's good resistance or bad resistance, depending on how you see it, could be considered the mud.
Absolutely.
But you know, all right, so beginning the show off talking about the mud, you got to understand what the mud is about. It's about getting to that next level. It's really just a stepping stone. All right. Success is never instant. Nobody ever just says, okay, I want to be this, and then they become the best at that. You may even get lucky enough to fill out an application and get the job that you truly want, your dream job. But it ain't going to be easy as you thought day number one. Day number two. Check this out. You know, if people teach you what the mud is at the very beginning, when I graduated from college, Helen, I got a job working for the Tom Joyner Morning Show. In my mind, I skipped right on over the mud, right? That's the number one national African-American show in America. I skipped right on over the mud in my mind. I didn't realize it was still a grind that I had to do. I just thought I had made it. But what most people do, probably including Tom Joyner in the radio industry, they graduate from college, if they even go, but they work at Tyler, Texas radio station, and then they move up to a little bit larger radio station, and then they're in Dallas and New York and so forth and so on. But that Tyler, Texas is a part of the mud. Success is never, I live in a little small town, USA. I get a job at the #1 radio station in America, New York. Never happens. You have to go through the stepping stone. And it's fun because you learn, you fall, you win, you do all those things at the lower level. So when you get to the top, you know how to survive.
Preach.
And I would say what I actually just did I think I just did my first episode on being uncomfortable for my podcast, and that was one thing I was saying is like what I appreciate the most about the mud, since that's what we're using right now, is when you get over it, when you out the mud and you look back, you like, dang, I did all that. Like, I really did that. I really survived that. And then it just makes you so much more grateful for the position that got you to. I think, though, as people, we don't take the time to appreciate surviving the mud, right? Like, we just, hey, we got to point B. That's what we want to, that's what we want to congratulate. When it's really like, no, like, your character is shown in how you get out the mud. Your morals is shown when you get out the mud. Like, there's so much that you learn about yourself when you in the mud that when you get out, you really are kind of a different person. Like, you're not the same person when you started that journey. And I don't think we appreciate that enough or take the time to be like, I'm him or I'm her for real, just for getting through that part of the mud.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes we forget we're in the mud when you get out of the mud. You ever went through something hard and you go and you forgot about what happened? You know what I mean? You just ended up here March 19th and you forgot about what happened in February. It just, God just helped you get out the mud and you forgot you was even in it.
And it's temporary, Zach. It's temporary. You don't live in it.
Man,
you don't live in the mud.
Yeah. Yeah, this and the mud can be it can be used for different, to explain different things. So I know like Eric Thomas talks about pain, which will be the mud. He said pain is temporary. He said you can either subside to it or you can deal with it, but eventually it's gonna subside. But now how you handle it is on you.
Ace, it's funny. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll go after you.
Well, I was gonna say, the one thing about the mud is pain is associated strong with the mud. You have to go through pain. I'm gonna start my new regimen tomorrow. I gotta wake up at 5 o'clock. It's painful to wake up at 5 when you're used to 7, right? It's painful to go to bed. It's painful to go to bed at 10 when you're used to going to bed at midnight. And then I gotta go to the gym because I've gotten fat. It's painful to be sore when you first start working out. It's painful to say no to a Snicker when I'm used to eating Snickers. And it's not always a strong physical pain like a knife, but there's pain that's always associated with being in the mud. And so you have to know that as you get ready to go into it. Go ahead, Helen.
So a quick personal story that I think was my first real conscious awareness of being in the mud and knowing that I would get out of it. So I'm a self-taught driver. I taught myself how to drive. When I got my license, y'all, I had been in the car 2 times.
Oh, Lord.
2 times, okay? So I failed my driver's test twice as well. So I got on the 3rd try. So I moved to California. I had my Florida license, which is where I got my license. So that should tell you something. Moved to California, and then my mom was 3 hours away. So I wanted to be able to drive to her because it was such a long stretch of highway. I was like, that'd be easy for me to get comfortable on the roads. I'd be on the highway. I could be in a slow lane. But unfortunately, I didn't have it because she passed away before I got comfortable doing it. But I remember when I would drive, I would have to tell myself, Helen, in a year or 2, you're going to be different. You're going to be in a different space. You're going to be more comfortable. You're going to know how to drive. You're not going to be nervous. And I would have to tell myself every time I got in the car, like, this is temporary, Helen. Like, I know we hate it. I know we're uncomfortable. We're very sensitive when people talk about it. And then just about, I want to say last year was my first year where I was like, I'm a good driver. That took me 6 years. That took me 6 years to get there, for me to be like, okay, I can really drive. Like, I wouldn't let people drive in my car with me. When I got my car I got now, my sister drove, and the guy was like, you don't want to drive? And I was like, nah, she's going to be driving mostly, because I didn't want to tell him, nigga, I don't know how to drive for real. I just think I know how to, I know how to stay away, and that's it. So, but I just remember, so vividly telling myself, it's okay, Helen, it's temporary. Once you do it more and the more comfortable you get, you will get better at it. And then when I got to that point, I was like, girl, you remember every day we would talk to ourselves and just say one day at a time. So I knew I was in the boat, but that's the first time I was actually conscious of being in a situation that was uncomfortable. I was always like, oh, I'm gonna die today because I'm getting an accident, because people can't drive. I can't drive. Nobody can really drive, right? We just do what we think is right. So that is the one real experience that I remember being conscious of being uncomfortable and knowing that I would grow from this, but I just had to overcome my fear of being in a car. But I'm a good driver now. Don't
So
tell me
Helen,
no more jokes.
Helen, it took you about 4 years to get to the fast lane.
Oh no, we was in the fast lane. We just wasn't able to dodge out the fast lane to get to an exit that we needed to. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, remind us not to ride with you.
Don't do that. I ain't got not one ticket. Okay.
Hey, what's the difference between a storm and being in the mud? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Also, mud is temporary. We're going to go back to that conversation. We'll see y'all in about a minute.
Everybody loves them. Tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Storms will come. This we know for sure. This we know for sure. Can you stand the rain?
In March, rebrandUS celebrate Black.
That was cute. That was cute.
Surviving the mud. All right. So before we went on a break, we said we were going to talk a little bit more about how mud is temporary. And it's funny, you know, when you have your conversations with your kids and you have your conversations with your grandkids, I think it's very necessary for you to tell them, look, you're going to have to go through some things in this life. And that step is very temporary. If you take a step to go to the second floor, each step is short. They're not just one big step and you got to crawl up this step and it takes a while. Right. So one step at a time, and eventually you get to the second floor. I think we have to understand that each step is temporary. Step, right? When you're going through the mud, it too is very temporary. And if we know that going through it, if we know that, okay, I got to get this first job to get the second job to get the ultimate job. Oftentimes it doesn't take years for us to work the first two jobs. It's all about what knowledge and information you gain while being in that step. So the mud is temporary. Ace, I think you had something.
Ace and froze up.
Frozen.
Froze up. Okay. Well, anyway, so
can y'all hear me? Am I heard?
We hear you now.
Thank you, Spectrum.
Not no more.
Thank you, Spectrum.
We're gonna go fund me for you, man. We gotta get you. We gotta get you another internet service.
Hey, we need them people to go subscribe. I can afford some high quality internet.
Y'all go subscribe.
It's y'all out there.
Go subscribe. We need him some internet.
Two quotes that come to mind with that, when we talking about that situation. But the main one is Les Brown speaks about you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great.
That's good.
And of course, the old classic, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And I think what's common with everything is that when we're speaking about the mud, we're never speaking of being planted in the mud. It's always progressing. We're going through the mud. We're stepping through the mud. We're progressing through the mud, and that's the key part right there. You're not staying in the mud. You're not how they say wallowing
in the mud.
Did I say? Do that count as a big word? Wallowing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I said I had to find another nomenclature to use. If not,
no, you good. We're gonna give you 200 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, Teresa Nelson? She says she is watching. Thank you very much. Stay here. We got some great show to watch and continue to comment, Teresa.
And to piggyback on Ace, you're absolutely right. Nothing grows in the mud. There's no trees. There's no, unless you swamp area. But really, out reality, nothing grows in the mud. So we're not supposed to be in the mud. It's a stepping stone. Yeah, there's nothing on earth that grows in the mud.
And literally, mud does eventually change state, right?
Absolutely.
So nature mud changes state. Mud don't even stay mud.
Yeah. So it's not meant for us to be there. Right. Quicksand. Get up out of there. That's what it meant.
Please.
We had this based on what Helen just said, piggybacking. I never use that term. So what Helen just said, it's funny, like, sun always dries the mud, right? You got mud out there and the sun dries the mud. So from a spiritual, biblical standpoint, like if you want to get out of your situation, it's better to be closer to the sun, S-O-N. Right. So if you're real close to God and you're real close to the Son, and He teaches you, and you with Him, He shows you while in the mud what to do, what not to do. Because the worst thing in the world is to be in the mud, make bad decisions, and stay in the mud. Make another bad decision and you're back in the mud. Right. But if you're the Son, S-O-N, He'll teach you how to get out of the mud, just like the S-U-N Son dries up the mud and it's easier to walk out. And it's also, I think me and Yashika and Ace was talking about this the other day. Have the right friends. I'm gonna tell y'all a list of stuff that a guy you have to have, but you need the right friends around you to pull you out of the mud. Because sometimes that mud, Ace, is quicksand.
Yeah,
you don't need to be in quicksand. Your friends, the right people who really truly have your back, they let you know, hey man, that ain't good mud to be in. Sometimes you got good soil you can sow. That's bad mud to be in. Let's go to the comments real quick. It says you must believe that the mud is not a finale and it's not your home. I absolutely love that. That's Deborah Goodson. Yeah, the mud is not a place where you stay. The mud is a place where you learn. You have to cross over the mud to get back to dry land sometimes.
Now, I don't know if I'm getting too metaphorical with it now.
Bring it on.
But the people back in the day, and some people still to this day, use mud to make houses. So if you're smart with your mud, you know how to repurpose it, baby. That's all I'm saying.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, so the mud is temporary. All right, so right before we went to break, we had, or right when we were in break, we had this song by New Edition. Can you stand the rain? Typically, that's about the storms that you'll go. I think they even use that word, storms will come. What's the difference, Zach, between a storm and being in the mud?
Man, for me, I think the storm is just something that happens spare moment. You know what I mean? A death, losing a job, you know what I mean? A breakup, something that comes really quickly and it's just a storm. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, but we're in Texas and it'll be 95 degrees the next day.
Right on.
So that's the storm for me. The mud is that crossover path, that's on the ground. You got to keep your feet moving. God's going to give you that storm, but He cut you 2 feet. What you going to do with them? You going to stand there or you going to walk over that puddle? That's where I would take the storm against the mud.
I love it. I like it.
I would say a storm is more, it impacts more than just you. Usually a storm has bigger effects, right? Like broken trees, houses, electricity go out. So to Zach's point of death in the family, that impacts more than just you. A lot of us, when we lose our matriarch, the family fall apart. Right. So I think a storm has a bigger impact, and it's not about you. It's not just affecting you. The storm affects those around you usually. Right.
But you know what's interesting about a storm, and I'll let you go next, Ace, and the mud, neither one of them comes without rain.
Right.
It takes water to do both of them. So I think in the middle of when it rains, after it rains, then you see growth. So if you treat a storm right, even a storm, then there's some growth at it. I mean, some of them is tough. Like if you have
joy comes in the morning.
That's
it. Joy comes in the morning.
Okay, whatever that means. All right, y'all. So I
got to go to church every Sunday. Wait, I didn't tell you about the storm in the mud.
That joy come in the morning really just kind of negated anything you could say.
Hey, you ain't at a black church if your pastor ain't said that every other Sunday. Joy comes in the morning. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
All right.
I think I think they go hand in hand in some cases. What everybody said was right, but also I think I look at it like the storm brings the mud, causes the mud. The storm brings you, to the mud. So I think in some cases they can correlate. One of them is causing effect, but I think it's kind of like the steps to it. A storm brought you to the mud.
Absolutely. So that's a little bit better than whatever that joy crack you made. Listen, we got a couple minutes till we take another break. Let's have a little bit of fun. I'll be the host. I'll tell y'all. I want to see how well y'all know y'all's country. And I'm going to make this very simple. What's the top 10 populated cities in the United States? And I want to see if y'all can go in order. Do y'all think y'all are up for the game?
Yeah.
I never was good at trivia.
Okay,
Let's go.
We're gonna do it. I'm gonna ask a few questions. I'm gonna have to do some counting on a few because I didn't break them all the way down. But before I do that, let's go to the comments. Ace, who says this? They said, before the storm comes, you get thunder and lightning. That's your warning to take cover. Nothing happens in life without some type of warning.
That's Teresa Nelson.
See, that's a good. I love the comment.
Yeah,
Okay, Teresa.
Yeah.
All right.
That was
Top
good.
10 cities in the United States. First of all, I want y'all to tell me how many cities in Texas are in the top 10 cities in the United States.
3.
Dang.
Zach says 2. Ace says 3.
I'm gonna say 3 too.
3.
Oh,
So
no.
you got-
Can I say 5? I'm gonna say 5. I'm gonna say 5.
5.
Let's say 5. I'm
Bold.
gonna say 5. I'm gonna say 5. Because Texas is massive. Y'all big.
There are actually 4.
4.
Okay.
So Helen and whoever said 3 would be close. Helen, you actually would lose if this was The Price is Right. You went over.
Yeah. I can come on down.
But you know what? Since we're on that, how many cities in the state of California are in the top 10?
1.
3.
Yeah, maybe 3. Was
3.
it San Francisco, maybe Oakland?
You can't
LA.
name them just yet. I'm gonna have y'all to name the top 10 in just a little bit. All right, now let's go. We got just a couple minutes. Let's see if y'all can put them in order. What is the top 10 cities in the United States? You don't have to put them in order. Just tell me what they are.
Houston got to be.
Dallas.
Houston is number 4. Dallas is number 9.
San Antonio.
San Antonio is 7.
Is Jacksonville on there?
No Jacksonville's at all.
Jacksonville big. LA.
LA is number 2 at 3.8 million people.
New York.
San Francisco.
Number 1, 8.3 million people. No New York. I mean,
no New York.
San Francisco.
No San Francisco.
Oh.
So it's New York. New York is on there.
New York's number 1. LA's number 2.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia is number 6 at 1.5. Y'all missing number 3. Y'all
Wow.
can't get number 3.
We say H-Town?
We're say Houston.
Houston's number 4.
Oh, okay.
Austin.
Austin is in there at 974,000 coming in at number
Atlanta.
10. No way.
Baltimore?
No.
Sulphur Springs.
Sulphur Springs coming in at number 3. If any of our audience is listening, please tell us, what do you think the number 3 largest city in the United States is? I think somebody said Philly. That's number 6. Number 5, anybody?
Honolulu.
Okay, no. I will go through the list for you. The number 1 city in the United States is New York. Number 2, LA. Number 3, Houston, Texas. Number 4.
We said Houston.
I'm sorry. Number 3 is Chicago, Illinois. Number 4 is Houston, Texas. Number 5 being Phoenix. Number 6 is Philadelphia with 1.5 million. We're still in the millions. Number 7, San Antonio, 1.4. Number 8, San Diego at 1.3. Dallas, Texas is number 9. And then you have Austin with 974,000. Let's go to the comments. But before this, okay, I think we read that earlier. All right, y'all, we got a whole lot more show to come. I think Yashika should be joining us here in just a little bit. This is going to be a lot of fun. I got another trivia for us, too. So we're going to be doing that here in just a little bit.
When you say, "Oh, Taylor Swift close to Mike J," I'm like, I'm pretty sure she can come to Dallas, get a decent show, but she don't need protection or nothing like that.
Taylor Swift? Yeah, she needs protection. I don't listen to her music personally, but I know she's big. I remember they were talking about a concert she did. She had so many fans that when they were jumping up and down to whatever song, it created an earthquake. So she's big, okay? So we can't, she is. I mean, it is what it is. Is she the biggest Beyonce? No, we all know that she's not. But I think because Beyonce is who she is, they have to bring somebody up to try to match her.
When you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too.
Equalizer, they want to pull my pistol out on the show, boy. They equalizer up there. I clicked my
That's a good
watch
movie.
and
Surviving the Mud right here on rebrandUS. Y'all be sure to go hit and push that share button. Share. I wanted to bring this up. Chris Cow from the website of, I think it's called lessonsfromthemud.com or something like that, some weird website. He says there's a lot of different things that you have to know whenever you are going through the mud. See, they do obstacle courses too. And he said those obstacle courses of running through the mud is very, very similar to life itself. He says one of the things you have to do is don't wait until you're ready. In other words, you have to just go through the mud. Don't wait. It's always time to just have fun in it. He said it's easier with friends by your side. So you can go through the mud with friends or have them around you whenever you're going through it. But he also says, you know what? Failure is okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I think we have to teach that, and we have to teach that strong. I read somewhere one time, say if you never try, then you never fail. But you never fail, you never get anywhere. Right? Yeah. And there's another quote that says something like, the man who did it perfectly never did it at all, or something.
Yeah.
Obstacles are placed in your way to be conquered. So when you do that obstacle course in the mud, they have you jumping over stuff, running through this, going under that, and they're obstacles. It's fun. But in life, the same thing. I can only have a 2-story building because I don't have enough square footage on the ground. I got to go up now, so I have to walk up the steps. It also says grit can be learned. That means don't quit. Just keep busting your butt. Don't sweat the small stuff is another one. It's fun to get dirty. I'm reading these. I want y'all to comment on which one y'all think is the best. It's fun to get dirty sometimes because you learn a lot from it and you will be inspired. It's all about the journey. You're capable of more than what you think. And finally, don't take yourself too serious. What y'all think about those?
I like
They all good.
two. The one about it's about the journey, because they always say it's not necessarily the results, it's who you become along the way. You know, coming out of. Then also I like the one about grits. I'm such a big Al Green fan, so anything about grits.
I'm all on you.
This guy.
Yeah.
Listen, I think the one about you're more capable than you realize is a big one for me, because I think a lot of us underestimate what we can go through until we go through it.
I think failure, man. You know, most people are scared of failure. You know, I mentioned this a couple of times ago. Marketing, you got to be okay with being fired. This is a failure position. You know what I mean? Not saying that you didn't do your job, but they'll move on from you. I'm not scared of failing because I failed before. You know, failure makes you a better man. You know, you messed up. You figure out what you did wrong, and you move on. Even if it's in a relationship, you figure out what it did wrong. You chose the wrong chick. You know, they all crazy.
You know what? It's funny you say that.
I don't know.
All right, so you know another interesting thing is I try to change the tune up just a little bit. You know, you could be very successful at work. You've gone through the mud. Now you're the president of the company. You're doing great. Your money looks great. Everything is awesome. But your relationship could be rough. You're going through the mud in your relationship. You know, life is not even all the way across the board. That's the funny part about that. Have you ever seen a person who do really well at work? They make it 6 figures at $800,000 a year, but they living off $850,000 a year. So it's not always easy, you know.
Listen, because I had my sorry, Anthony. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's on you.
I no shade, but I actually was having this moment with a realization about my ex. I was like, as much as talking he has to do at work, and as much patience he has to have at work, because he was a manager at a dispensary, this nigga could not show me an iota of that in our relationship. And I was like, I don't get that, because what I do at work, the principles, how I talk, how I communicate, how I interact, I bring that into my relationship because it's respect, right? And so it confused the hell out of stuff. I was like, how this man can be a manager but can't manage his relationship? It's 1 + 1 is not 2.
It is 2.
It happened all the time.
It is 2. It is 1 and 1 is 2, because I've been there. Marketing would set you, you know, we talk for a living 24/7. And then when you get home, sometimes you don't want to have that conversation because you've been in somebody's face all day long. I'm just saying.
I call BS.
And to piggyback on what Ant said, there's not a road in this world that's not bumpy. You know, when you are going
Amen.
back to life, you know,
Yep.
the world has a terrain. You know what I mean? You got to go through it, and I think our generation, not nothing with Helen, but our generation went through that. Mama told you to get outside, and you figured it out until you came home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We didn't have a game system to sit up here and you know, we had to go outside. If you were getting bullied, you had to figure it out.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was.
that's pretty much.
Yeah. No.
And it's
No.
just being well rounded. You
Mhm.
know, that's what I love. You know, I'm a big ET fan. Seek to Success podcast. You know, they talk about being 360, and what it is being focused in every aspect of life. You know, so it's like you have to focus. Like, you know, you're killing it in your career, but you're failing in your marriage. You know, you got a great marriage, but your relationship with your kids is bad. You know, and they break Jamal King breaks it down in 5 pillars, and I can't never remember the 5th one, but it's like faith, family, finance, fitness, and then it's another one. But you know, those are like 5 pillars to help with well-roundedness, and it just comes down to being focused on each of them, being zoned in on all of them instead of just one.
I think friends would be that last one, Ace. It
started
goes
to say
back to what Ant said. You know, if you ain't
Yeah.
got a good circle of friends, you remember back in the day they told you, you know, that they're gonna always get you in trouble. That group of friends gonna get you in
Oh
trouble.
yeah.
I think friends would be it. You know, if I didn't have Ant and some of the people I got around me, you know, when I can lean on them and say something, and but we also got to listen. You got to listen to,
Right.
you know,
Right.
be able to hear him give you that storm, because sometimes the storm come with a conversation of a friend telling you, "Nah, you doing shit wrong."
Yep.
Hey, so when you
Yep.
fall down, don't stay there. Get up, put one foot in front of the other, and keep moving. But you know what, Zach?
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. A lot of friends don't take your advice. They put themselves in the mud on purpose. I give you some great advice. I always say, and I tell this to Ace all the time: if I give you advice, you listen. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I ain't gonna give you advice on something I don't know. I'll be like, I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
Another podcast that you were on, Helen. I won't say anybody's name, but that individual who led that show called me up one time and asked me for some advice, and I said no, I can't give it to you. He said, why not? I said, I'm even though I'm in the same situation as you, I can't give you advice because I'm struggling with that myself. And so I didn't want to give him bad advice, and I use that on purpose, because if I tell you, I know. If I don't tell you, I don't know, and I'm not gonna make anything up. So you got to learn that. This is probably my daddy. The Mud was Marine Corps boot camp, 1968. Came out strong as a man.
Ooh, 1968. He for surely went through the mud.
Yeah,
Dang, that was a time.
Yeah,
You know,
that was real.
That was a time.
and that friend when it is, you know, that is important. Like you're saying, you know, who you hang with and who you're around. You know, I stopped taking advice from Goodson because I started figuring out he was practicing on me. Trying to see how the advice worked.
It didn't work out. I'm not trying to.
Then he be telling everybody else, you know, he be telling other people like, no, don't do that. I told Ace to do that. And
didn't work out so well, huh?
I
All
had a
right,
really
victory.
good friend, a really good girlfriend, really quick before we go on. And we were just having a moment reflecting on how strong our friendship is. There was a situation with her and her partner, and it was kind of a vulnerable, or it was a situation that you really don't want to tell too many people, because you don't want, you know, like, anyway, so you don't want to tell some people. But she asked me, because I've been able to curate a mindset to be able to listen to things and take, similar to you, and I'm never going to give out advice if I haven't been through it, but I'm very good at being able to take a step back and look at a situation from an outside perspective. And I give kudos to my psychology degree on that. But she told me a situation, gave her my 2 cents on it, and then she told her boyfriend that she told me, and that his first reaction was, why would you tell Helen? Like, why Helen always got to be in our business? But then she told him what I gave, and he was like, oh, that was actually really good advice. And I was like, and it just made us think, like, we only got there because, to what Zach said, our friendship built on a very vulnerable point, and I was able to give her some really honest, hard advice, but she was in a space to listen and receive it. So our friendship, which is now a sisterhood, bonded over that, because I've had like some real, like, girl, what the are you doing? Like, I don't even know if I want to be friends because you're acting crazy. And she was able to take that and be like, nah, I'm tripping for real. Okay, how do we fix this? And so you really have to have those friends like that, but you have to know that you got those friends, because a lot of people like to say you're a hater or you don't know what you're talking about. So you also have to know you got a good friend.
I like that you say that, Helen, because do y'all remember in the movie The Best Man, Tay Diggs' character was doing bad, and he needs to borrow some money from Terrence Howard's character. He's going through the mud at that point.
Yeah.
He had a good friend that was there to help pull him out a little bit, you know, and then help aid him in the way. So the mud can mean so many things. You just gotta know when you are there how you have to maneuver in a particular kind of way so you can get yourself out. The mud can be fun, but the mud can be rough also. Let's go to the comments. Teresa Nelson, thank you again, Teresa. She said, mud can get you really dirty in life with what you go through, but rain comes and washes that mud away. Rain washes it away and it helps to grow. So they can work hand in hand. You go through hard times in life, which is the mud, but what comes can wash you clean. That's the rain and the storm. God is able to make all things.
Go ahead, Teresa. Go ahead. Teresa on it tonight. Teresa on that psychology degree. She on that. She in it tonight.
She done been in the mud a few times.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is listen. Shun not the struggle because it's God's gift.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, see, let me tell y'all something about Teresa too. Strong woman of God. I'm not taking that away or anything, but she's also a beautician or hairstyle. I don't know what the proper word is. I don't want to offend anybody.
Beautician's the right word.
Okay, so when they sit around and they talk, they give out your barber give out better advice than anybody else because he's been listening to problems all day. So thank you for that comment. All right, so victory is always preceded by the mud. You know what? I think I said this at the very beginning. Can you think of a situation where you won, but you didn't have to go through anything except for scratching the lottery ticket to get there? Scratching the lottery ticket is the only thing that I can think of where you didn't do anything but pay $1 to win.
Still had to go get it.
You still had to pay for it, and you still had to take a chance.
Yeah, and you still had to work to go get it though. You had to work to get that $1. So
and you probably had to stand in line behind somebody that had 30 of them.
I think when I be seeing them, I'm like, how many you finna take? You gonna share? Like you might have to win and get one and go on.
Give me 2 of number 3s. Give me 4. I don't actually play the lottery, but I've seen it before. All I want is 10 on pump 7.
That's it. That's it.
Somebody gonna come in and say something like, "You can get $10."
Hey, you just need enough gas to get home. Ain't nobody worried about that. 10 on pump 7, please.
Surviving the mud, y'all. I'm having a good time talking about this. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about some of the things that you actually do learn from the mud because you have to go through it. And so what did you learn? Because if you didn't learn anything, you're very vulnerable to go right back. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Try not to laugh.
One of my favorites. Helen, can I tell you a quick story?
Okay, Ace. Tell me now. What did the triangle say to the circle?
What did he say?
You're pointless.
Okay, the story I was going to tell you. So check this out. Am I going to win by default?
What is Forrest Gump's computer password?
What?
1, Forrest, 1.
What you call a buck that doesn't have antlers?
Antlers?
A transgender deer.
What did one toilet say to the other toilet?
What?
You look flushed.
I see what you did there.
At the Venetian Hotel, they just opened up a brand new Ethiopian restaurant down there, right? A brand new Ethiopian restaurant. Now, personally, I didn't even know they had food in Ethiopia. I didn't even know. And I'm thinking, what little food they got, they bringing it over here. Take that food back over there and give it to the people. The people are crazy here.
All right.
George Wallace, my man.
When did I laugh at that? Can I just say, every time that clip of Ace thinking he was really finna kill us with that transgender joke, and we both was like,
Oh, that joke was off
that's
the
what I was.
chain. That joke was
Listen,
off the
I
chain.
laugh
Y'all know
so
it.
hard every time that clip played. Like I do an ugly laugh every time.
That is
Zach,
funny.
did you hear that
You know,
joke,
was a
Zach?
hit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
heard
a
it.
funny joke, man.
Yeah,
That's
and the joke that she had before that, it was kind of my bad, Helen.
You can't win them all. Listen, you can't win them all. You can't win them all.
You're in the mud right now.
Hey,
I'm gonna crawl out.
I tell you what, speaking of in the mud, I bet comedians probably get thick in that mud early on in their career.
Oh man.
No, they do. I can listen. That's a job I can't imagine. Like, you really know if you suck right away, and you kind of gotta just really roll with the punches in order to get over. Otherwise, I'm leaving crying for sure.
Especially the one that finished their
I'm
act
crying.
too. The one that stay and finish. I'm like, oh.
Hey, but you got to,
Yeah.
man. You know what I mean? If that's what you want to do.
And you know what's funny? Your friends are the ones encouraging you to get up on that stage and keep it going. Yeah. And then you go to the Apollo and get booed.
Yeah.
You're like, because now you don't even know if you got good friends.
Yeah. Hey, look at American Idol. American Idol get them people going. You can sing because you sung at the birthday party and Simon Cowell ripped you apart. What are you doing here?
What do you do? But what if you can't? But that's the funny part. What if you really can sing? And Simon didn't like you though. Maybe you were nervous. You went through the mud in whatever kind of way. Maybe you were nervous, wrong song choice. List goes on and on.
You can't let the mud define you.
Yeah.
That's good.
And real quick, right before we go to what you learn from the mud, I think also sometimes when we get out the mud and we get to the other side, that victory is not the victory we were looking for, but it's still a victory. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of what you said earlier, Anthony. Like you got to go through several jobs before you get that real job. That's just the way it is. Like you really got to build your experience. So sometimes we get in place and we're like, what the hell? I did all that for this, not even realizing like actually you this is good. You need to be more grateful.
You come
right,
because you know a lot of times people start something and like you just said, because you don't know where you're going, how you gonna navigate. You never know where you're gonna end up, but you started. That's the first thing. You went through whatever. That's the second thing, and then you ended up here. So it's usually better than where you started from. Whether it's what you were looking for or expecting, it's better than where you were before.
Amen.
That's why it's so important. What do you learn from being in the mud? What do you learn? All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ace.
Oh, that's it. I was just throwing some resilience. You know, if you've been there and you made your way out, you got to think of every single storm or situation that you've had in your life. You made it through. The reason being, you right here, right now. You were your right now. So no matter what happened to you, you made it up to this point. So you learn resilience and how to go through. I think it gives you tougher skin too.
Absolutely.
It's kind of funny. It's like when you go through stuff like that, you think, okay, I learned how to work at I used the radio station example earlier. I learned how to talk in the mic. I learned how to interview people. I learned how to play music, whatever it is they do at a radio station. But you went to this radio station number 2, which is very, very small, radio station number 3, which is a little bit bigger, and so forth and so on until you got to that top radio station. But what you don't realize is all the lessons you learn behind it, not just the work itself. Is okay, I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to navigate myself. I learned how to be resilient. I learned how to rely on God. I learned a whole lot of other things. Some people might even learn how to pray in the middle of the mud. You know, and there's a whole lot more you learn outside of the job itself. And so I think the lessons, let me tell y'all. So in 2005, I guess, somewhere around that time, I went through a rough time. I won't go into the details on that, but a rough time. Here we are now, almost 2025, 20 years later. That is one of my favorite lessons in life. I mean, that's like my favorite times. It was terrible, terrible time. But what I gained from that was I never want to be broke. I never want to rely on anybody else. I never want to be fearful of where the next thing is going to come, whether it be your rent or your food or whatever it was at that time. And so now I'm steps and steps ahead. Me going through that, at that time, I felt like it was a storm. But me going through that mud at that time now has taught me, even 20 years later, how to navigate through life. So it's a lot to be learned, and it goes further than a day-to-day situation. Here I am 20 years later, still, living from that.
Yeah. Sometimes we call it a baby mama.
Moses, hey,
hey, I'm just saying. Sometimes we call it the day. You know what I mean? 3 of us on here understand.
Don't put me out.
Just 2 of us.
Yeah,
just 2. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I am. Me, I got the same one. We together. Only got the one with the head. But I understand from being around. So
hey,
and I think an important. And listen, I have seen enough of that to also agree with you. It's just unfortunate that there's truth to that. And I think when it comes to surviving the mud, that you really actually have to do some self-reflection to see how you grew from that. I think sometimes we go through the mud, and depending on how deep that mud is and how much we struggled, we just want to get to point B. But in order to learn those lessons and to apply it, you got to look back and be like, okay, dang, I did X, Y, and Z that I could have did it better this way. Like I did X, Y, and Z, I could have did better. Like I really have to look back on my last relationship and be accountable and have some real uncomfortable conversations with myself to be like, okay, girl, you played in your own face. So how do we fix this for the next relationship? Because we're not doing that again. So I think you have to self-reflect. There's no way you can go from the mud to point B and be like, okay, I learned my lesson. Like you gotta
it goes back to what Ant was saying. It goes back to what Ant and you guys 3 are saying the same, you know. You have to sit back and go, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be right there again. And that's when you know that you're stepping over that puddle. I'm not going to ever put myself in that position again.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been there recently. You know, sometimes people in these positions talk to you sideways. And it may not be the mud, but it could be the mud when they talking to you sideways. And you go like, I'll never let you do that to me again. I let you do it just one time, but I'm stepping about this mud and not let you do it again.
Right. Because it caught you off guard. You just stepped in the puddle thinking that it was like concrete. It looked hard. And he said, oh, baby, this is a little soft.
Right.
I ain't going to be fooled again.
I ain't going to do it.
Teresa Nelson said, for me, I learned that obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yeah. You know, lessons learned from the mud. You know, we're talking about what lesson being learned. And I think about, you know, I remember one of my line brothers, my frat brothers, his grandmother died. And his grandfather had been together like 60 years or something like that. Ooh. And I remember sitting there and I remember being sad for them because I know they were such a close-knit family. And I remember they, you know, raised the casket. His grandfather, we sitting on the front row, we pallbearers, his grandfather went to the casket. And instead of breaking down, like falling out and, oh God, why and all that, he went to the casket, he put his hands in the air in prayer, and he said, thank you, Father, for giving me 60 years with her, right? And so you look at that and you go, wow, that's resilience, right? Fast forward in time, my mom passes. Tragic. Nobody ever think mom's gonna go, right? And I remember one of the things that kept me strong is that moment that I saw him do that. I was 39 at the time, and I remember I said, and it gave me comfort. I said, thank you, Father, for giving me 39 years. You know, I started thinking about the people who lost mothers at birth and, you know, when they were small kids and stuff. And so it's like in the mud, lessons learned can, you know, make you resilient, you know, and I never forget that. And that's the first thing I said was, thank you, Father, for 39 years. And I got that lesson from the mud.
Yeah.
While in the mud, you learn not to. So you learn, I tell you, there's lessons in the mud. You learn not to give up while in the mud.
Yeah.
So when you're outside of the mud and something hard happens, you don't give up because you remember when you were in the mud.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Ace, who we got on the show next week?
Title of the show will be Grandpa Was Desperate. So we'll be speaking with them. Again?
That's my favorite one. I'm sorry. We got a lot of them we can use, but that was some reason.
I just be haters. Y'all be haters. Who picking up the torch?
I guess I'm gonna have to pick up the torch. Don't look like Yashika's in today. She, running through a few issues. Shout out to you, Chico. You certainly were missed tonight. So was
Yeah, she had a hot hand on the dice game, baby. And she couldn't leave.
Let me represent for you, Chico.
Bring it in.
What the hell? There we go. Uh-oh.
Hey, yo, hey. Who we got on the show next week?
I like that. Well,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
your job might be up.
We done had some bad ones. I ain't gonna name no name. We done had some horrible. We'll talk about that later.
Name a name.
But since we're talking about the mud and dirt and everything like that, next week we're gonna have a great couple of guys on. We're actually gonna be talking to auto mechanics with clean fingernails, and we're gonna be asking what the hell they've been doing all day.
Literally.
I think we've heard that one before.
No, you haven't. Don't worry about it.
We've heard that one before.
Listen, my first thought was they can't be a mechanic because ain't no way. I don't trust it. What have you been doing?
That's what I said. What the hell you been doing all day?
They've been working with gloves.
Okay.
Sometimes when you're in the mud, maybe you can pop out and wash off real quick and jump back in the mud. No?
Nah, you can't jump out. The mud ain't hopscotch.
Who's jumping back in?
Hey, we thank y'all for being on the show tonight. We talked about surviving the mud. Really good show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you're going to want to watch our exit here in just a little bit for those of you who are actually going through something. And everybody's always going through something. It might not be that bad, or maybe you got it under control. But thank y'all. T, Deborah, Tony, who else did I miss? We really appreciate y'all. See y'all next week.
You. I want you to get these words inside of your soul because it's good faith ground. We need to start learning how to pray this way because when you do, prayer gets powerful. When you do, you'll get God's attention. I want you to be able to say these words. You said, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. You said, when the enemy comes in like a flood, that the Spirit of God shall raise up a standard. You said, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. You said, by your stripes I am healed. You said, we are more than conquerors. You said, if God be for us, who can be against us? You said, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and they are saved. You said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? You said, God is my refuge and my strength, a very present help in time of trouble. You said, I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. You said you would put angels around me and protect me. You said if I give tithes and offerings, the windows of heaven would be opened up and blessing would be poured out. You said you'll pass through the waters and I will be with you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. You said, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. You said, whatever we ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. You said, call unto me, and I will show you great and mighty things. Hallelujah.